Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. Welcome back to our discussion on 9th Thirumurai. We have already completed 9 Thirupadigams, and today we are going to start with the 10th Thirupadigam and the very first verse. This is also written by Karuvoor Thevar. It is written to the place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam. Very beautiful place. If you have chance, please don't miss it. It's a quiet place. The ambience is so beautiful. When you go there, you will literally feel as if you're all alone with Lord Shiva, and you will be able to have a peaceful chat with him. That's a beauty of this particular location. Let's look at the very first verse right now. Thiruchitrambalam. Thaliroli mani poombaadam silambalamba sadai veeri thalayeri gangai Thaliroli mani neer Thevalai muttarumbi Thirumugam malandu sottatta Kilaroli mani vandarai pozhil palanam Karuvoor kambalai se Keezhkottoor Thaliroli Maniyambalathul ninraadum மைந்தன் என் மானங்காலந்தானே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse, as I said earlier, it is written to the place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam. As a soul, our desire is to reach Lord Shiva's lotus feet. That is beautifully explained in this particular padigam. So, in Hinduism, we all are well aware of a mudra called as Chin Mudra. Chin Mudra is held something like this, not like this, because we can never become equal to Lord Shiva, but rather all we have to do is achieve his lotus feet. This is the most important Chin Mudra. When you look at the fingers, this particular finger represents God. Thumb represents God. The finger, the index finger represents us, as in the soul. The middle finger, the one which is the tallest and the most strong out of all, is our Arnavam, which we all know our ego is the biggest one among everything. When we look at the ring finger, this is what our karma is all about. And the last little finger, or the pink finger, this is the one which represents our Maya. That's why when you look at the Hindu ritual, which is the wedding ritual, usually what they do is, for the bride and the groom, they will tie these two fingers together while they are coming around the fire. This represents as my Maya and your Maya is going to be merged together, and we are going to create a new Maya. And we all know what kind of Maya we get into, and we get stuck anyways in that. That's why when we are decorating our fingers, we are not supposed to decorate anything else with ring other than this finger alone. The reason is, if we decorate this, we will end up getting stuck in this Maya. If we decorate this, obviously we are not going to let go of our ego, and we will always be stuck in this world. How about us? Our only decoration is to achieve Lord Shiva's feet. So we don't need to decorate externally. We shouldn't be doing it. How about Lord Shiva? He doesn't need all these. He's beyond all these decorations. So the only thing we do is decorate this finger. The reason is, when we decorate our karma, we are telling that, okay, I'm going to enjoy all the karmic deeds, and I'm going to get rid of the effect of this karma by letting everything to Lord Shiva. So I'm accepting the karma, and I'm not going to generate any new karma, but I'm going to appreciate and admit that I've created this karma. That is the reason, that's the psychological reason behind our Chin Mudra, as well as the reason why we are wearing the ring. Okay. So having said that, we never go for this kind of a mudra. This is not part of Saiva Siddhantam, but this is what we call it as the Chin Mudra, which means we need to bend ourselves, surrender ourselves to Lord Shiva. Right. So when you are meditating, we need to go on with the Chin Mudra. So this is the mudra that we have to hold on while we are meditating. Now let's look at this verse. Here also almost the same information is being resonating, which means Lord Shiva is performing his cosmic dance, and while he is dancing, his lotus feet, flower like feet, and such a bright feet, he is having all these ankles and everything. So that is making that is generating a lot of musical notes because of his dance. Not only that, because of the way he is dancing, his hair is it's like let go, loose, and at the same time it's just spinning off, and the river Ganges, which is on his hair, is splitting all, as in it is trying to, when we talk about water, and we will see usually the splashing of water droplets, right? Similar to that, river Ganges is also letting out the droplets, and that goes on to Lord Shiva's face, and which increases his beauty. That kind of Lord Shiva is dancing in the place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam, and the lady who talks about this particular padigam, as we said, this is also written as a love. So she says that my heart is with Lord Shiva, the one who is performing the cosmic dance in Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam. That is what the first verse is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the second verse. The verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. Tunda venpirayum padar sadai molupum soliyamum solamum neela kandamum kurayum pavalavayidalum kannudal tilagamum kaati kandayum kayalum ugalum nirpalana Karuvoor kambalai sei Keezhkottoor Vandarai Maniyambalathul ninraadum மைந்தன் என் மனம் கலந்தானே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is again, as we said earlier itself, it is from a girl who has fallen in love with Lord Shiva. The appearance of Lord Shiva is beautifully given in the second verse. He says, as in the lady says, Lord Shiva has a beautiful crescent on his thick hair, and it is also bound together. The hair is being bound together, and not only that, he is having a blue, as in the throat is blue in color, we all know Neelakantam. No, and also he is having a trident in his hand. His beautiful face, lips, as well as his earrings, as in we call it as a kundalam, the earrings are all so beautiful, and it adds the charm to Lord Shiva. This particular place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam is full of natural beauty, and it has a natural vegetation and a lot of water resources. So we are able to see quite a lot of greeneries in this place. In that place, which is filled with natural resources, is the place where Lord Shiva is residing, and that Lord Shiva is the one who has already taken away my heart. So the second verse talks about the way how she has lost herself to Lord Shiva, as in completely surrendered to Lord Shiva. If you imagine this particular verse from a girl's point of view, yes, we can see this in a superficial manner, but what we have to do is we have to imagine this as Lord Shiva is there, and the soul, be male or female, it doesn't matter, or even any other animal, doesn't matter. We have to start longing for him, start falling in love with him, and start admiring his beauty. The moment we start to surrender ourselves, we will be able to see beauty, and that beauty is nothing but nature, and every piece of nature we will be able to see Lord Shiva in that. That is what verse number 2 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the third verse, the verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. திருநுதல் விழியும் பவளவயதழும் திலகமும் உடையவன் சடை மேல் பொறிதரு மலரின் தாதனின்றோத போய் வரும் தும்பிகளிங்கே கிரிதவள் முகிலின் கீழ்த்தவள் மாடம் கழுவு கம்பலை செய் Keezhkottoor வருதிரல் மணியம்பலவனை கண்டேன் மனத்தையும் கொண்டு பொது மீனே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is to tell us when the soul falls in love with Lord Shiva, how are we supposed to enjoy his presence and at the same time enjoy the entire nature as Lord Shiva? In this particular verse, the girl says that the moment I saw his beautiful forehead and the eyes on the forehead, which is the third eye, and his beautiful lips, along with that his tilakam, which is basically the dot that we have, the holy dot that we have on our forehead, all these are there on Lord Shiva. And not only that, he has a beautiful hair and he has a lot of flowers in that. Based on the smell and the basically the aroma of those flowers are attracting all those bees and dragonflies and all those, which is getting attracted towards the beautiful smell and aroma of those fragrance of those flowers, and it is going around Lord Shiva. This kind of this is happening in a place called as Keezhkottoor, and this place is filled with natural resources, which means there's a lot of greenery, there is a lot of same ways there's a lot of rainfalls. Not only that, they do have a high raised mountains, and the clouds that is formed over there are hitting on or basically drifting all over the mountains when the clouds are moving. This place is called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam, and that is the place where Lord Shiva is performing his cosmic dance, and that is the place where I have lost my heart to Lord Shiva. This is what verse number 3 is all about. This basically talks about the beauty of Lord Shiva and at the same time nature, which tells us that if we start seeing nature and Lord Shiva as the same person, we will start to enjoy the blissful state of Shivoham. That is what verse number 3 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the fourth verse, the verse goes this way: Thiruchitrambalam. தெள்ளு நீராவன் நீரென்னுடல் விரும்பும் சேவியாவன் அறிவு நூல் கேட்கும் மெல்லாவே அவன் பேர் விளம்பும் வாய்க்கண்கள் விமானமே நோக்கி வெவ்வோயேற்கும் கிள்ளை பூம்போதும்பில் கொஞ்சி மாம்பொழிற்கே கெழுவு கம்பலை கீழ்கோட்டூர் வள்ளலே மணியம்பலத்துள் நின்றாடும் மைந்தனி என்னும் என் மனனே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is taken from the viewpoint of this world. When someone falls in love with a person, like let's look at the normal life as of today. When someone is falling in love, the first thing you will be able to see, observe, is the changes that is going through them. They would love to talk about the person they are in love with. They would love to speak up about their names. They will love to hear about information about this person. They will also be longing to talk to him, see his face, visualize him or whatever. Now, what we have to do in this particular verse is we need to imagine like the guy, the person we are falling in love is Lord Shiva, and the girl who has fallen in love is we basically. We in the sense the Anma, as in the souls. So the soul, when we fall in love with Lord Shiva, what we will start doing is whenever someone says Shiva Shiva, immediately our thoughts will go there. Even when we are talking to someone, 2 or 3 minutes we will be talking about something which is worldly related, some nonsense. After that we will retract back and go back to Lord Shiva's topic, something or the other, but we will be talking only about Lord Shiva. Observe our talk. If you are able to not more than 1 minute talk about the worldly things, and if you are able to talk only about Lord Shiva, we are already in the category called as Adiyar, devotees. If it's in the contrary, as in when we start as if we are talking about Shiva, but after a minute, if we divert from that topic and start talking all nonsense that is happening around us, sorry to say, we haven't achieved that state yet. Observe our talk, observe our thoughts, observe the behavior. We will know whether we have reached that category called as devotees or not. So in this particular verse, what the author is basically taking himself as a lady here who has fallen in love with Lord Shiva and says, Lord, I'm waiting and longing to get your holy ashes, the one that is on your body, I want that to be on me. Not only that, whenever I hear something related to you, when someone is talking about you or chanting about you, my thoughts are totally getting immersed in that place. Not only that, even I would like to talk only about you, and my mouth is murmuring only about you. My eyes is willing to see only your temples, nothing else. I don't want to go around the world looking at beaches and buildings and mountains and forests and all these. Rather, I would want to visit your temple, your place, and look at you. And that's the only thing I need in this life. When I'm thinking about all these and I'm not able to achieve it, that is where I'm giving a long, deep breath, a sigh. And that sigh comes in as warm air because that is a frustration I'm venting out. And whom am I in love with? Lord Shiva, who's there in the beautiful place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam. He's dancing in that place, and that kind of Lord Shiva is the one that I've lost my heart to. That is what verse number 4 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the 5th verse. The verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. தோழியாம் செய்த தொழில் என் எம்பெருமான் துணை மலர் சேவடி காண்பான் ஊழிதொருழி உணர்ந்தோளம் கசிந்து நெக்கு நைந்தோளம் காரைந்தோருக்கும் கேழலும் புள்ளும் ஆகி நின்றிருவர் கழுவு கம்பலை Keezhkottoor வாழிய மணியம்பலவனை காண்பான் மயங்கவும் மாலொழியோமே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse reminds us of Annamalayar. We all know the Purana behind Thiruvannamalai. When Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu wanted to see Lord, they wanted to know who is superior compared to each other. They wanted to know who is superior to one another. So they approached Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva said, okay, I agree to this, and let me help to resolve this confusion between you guys. What you have to do is, one of you go all the way up and find out my head. Another person, you can traverse downwards and try to find my feet. Whoever is able to achieve these destinations, you can come back, and then we will declare you as the winner, as in you are the superior. So Lord Shiva took up the position of Annamalayar, which is nothing but a volcano, full red, and it's like a fire mountain. He took on that stance when Brahma took up the position of a swan, and he flew all the way to the top. He was not able to see the hair of Lord Shiva, not even the face. Then Lord Vishnu took up the position or took up the form of a pig, and he dug through the earth to go all the way below. End of the day, both of them could not find Lord Shiva's tip, or as in the toe, as well as the head. So they came back and they admitted their fault or admitted their failures, and that is the reason why even today when we go to Annamalayar, all our ego will be submissive. It will be submitted because we know that he is the superior. That kind of a place is Thiruvannamalai, and even big position holders like Indran, Vishnu, Brahma, they are not able to see Lord Shiva. But how easy it is for us to see Lord Shiva. It is just like that. It's such a breeze through for us. And what we want in this life, what do we need in this life is to witness his lotus feet, to surrender ourselves to his lotus feet. This is not going to be possible in 1 or 2 births. We don't even know how many births we have taken, and we didn't even know in some of the births that this was our main purpose. Right away, right now, at least to some extent, we know the purpose of this birth. We know that it is to achieve his lotus feet, and that is where we have already started that journey towards his lotus feet. The moment we go to Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam and we see the deity over there, we would get a complete, they always say, right, there are three words which is very precious in this life, which is you complete me. That you complete me is possible only when we visit Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam, and Lord Shiva will complete us. That is what verse number 5 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam, and the 6th verse. The verse goes this way: Thiruchitrambalam. En seigom thori தோழி நீ துணையா இரவு பொmpaகல் வருமாகில் அஞ்சலோ என்னான் ஆழியும் திரையும் அலமருமாறு கண்டாயவன் கிஞ்சுக மணிவாய் அறிவாயர் தெருவில் கெழுவு கம்பலை கீழ்கோட்டூர் மஞ்சணி மணியம்பலவவு என்று மயங்குவன் மாலயம் பொழுதே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is a very detailed, or in other words we have to say, this has been the concept of Saiva Siddhantam has been encapsulated in this particular verse. If you look at it, it talks about two stages, which is called as complete darkness and the other one is called as bright light. The darkness is depicted as the very initial stage that a soul always goes through, which is called as Kevala Nilai, which means at that point in time the only person or the only thing that will be with us to just hide us from everything is called as Arnavam, which is what we call it as ego, the entanglement. This entanglement was there with us, that's why it is called as a friend. My friend, which is Arnavam, has been with me when I was in darkness, which is nothing but Kevala Nilai. Lord Shiva wanted to show us the real bliss state, and he knew that the soul's entire or the end objective of a soul is to be happy and peaceful and in a blissful state. In order for a soul to achieve that, he had to remove us from this Kevalam stage. So he tried to rescue us. He gave this body, the world, all the entertainments that we are going through as of today, and also the feelings that we can possibly enjoy with the help of these things. We call it as Dhanukarana Bhuvana Bhoham. That has been given to us. With this Dhanukarana Bhuvana Bhoham, the soul started to get on to the bright light, which is what we call it as the daylight. Is daylight a pleasure? We all know it is obviously not a pleasure, because we have been going through this vicious cycle of birth and death and so much of a pain, and we are surrounded with so many problems around us. Is anyone having a complete pleasure about this particular life? Obviously no. Now how are we going to get rid of this, or rather how are we going to sustain this pain and get away from this? There is only one way for it, which is we need to get onto a state which is called as the evening state, neither morning, daytime nor night time. This is what we call it as the realization state. During our Kevala Nilai, which is basically our night, darkness, who was with us was the entanglement. During the daytime, we know the entanglement is moving away from us a little by little, which means we all know that Lord Shiva is the only one who can bestow us with happiness and bliss. So we start longing for his words to say, don't worry, I'm there with you. This Lord Shiva, when he is able to give us that consolation, that is when a soul is going to be relieved from this ocean of sorrows, ocean of birth and death. That particular place, the place where we can be liberated from this vicious cycle of birth and death, is called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam, The moment I see him, the moment I hear his name, my heart is filled with joy. This is what verse number 6 is all about. It is all based on the author's words, and he is expressing his gratitude towards Lord Shiva, who is there in this particular place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the 7th verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. தழைதவள் முழுப்பும் தவள நீற்றொழியும் சங்கமும் சகடையின் முழக்கும் குழைதவள் செவியும் குளிர் சடை தெண்டும் குண்டையும் கூழாங்கோடு தோன்றும் குழைதவள் கனகம் பொழியும் நீர்ப்பழனம் கழுவு கம்பலை கீழ்கோட்டூர் மழைதவள் மணியம்பலத்துள் நின்றாடும் மைந்ததம் வாழ்வு போன்றதுவே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is a beautiful verse talking about everything that is with nature. In other words, nature is seen as Lord Shiva. Imagine a place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam, which is filled with water resources in the form of rain as well as in the form of lakes or ponds or whatever we call it. Whenever there is a good water resource, surplus water resource, obviously what we will be able to see is full of greenery, natural vegetation. When there is a natural vegetation, we know there could be a lot of cows around that area. Not only that, when there is water, we would see a lot of shells growing up over there as well. Imagine all of these, and when all of these are visualized as Lord Shiva, that is what we are one with the nature, or rather one in the spiritual journey. This verse today is all about it. When the author, as in the saint who sung this padigam, when he sees the natural beauty of the place full of greenish gardens, he is visualizing that as Lord Shiva's hair. When you look at Lord Shiva's hair, he has lots and lots and lots of leaves on it. Something like we all know as of today, we have this leaf called as vanni, we have the leaf called as nochi, and also vilvam, which are very, very famous, and we always offer that to Lord Shiva. So the place is filled with these leaves. Is that all that we are able to see here? No. Obviously, when you see Lord Shiva, you will be able to see the holy ashes. So there are quite a lot of holy ashes, as well as since Lord Shiva has given the left body to his consort, left side of his body to his consort, this part is wearing beautiful bangles made of shell, and his right hand is holding on to the damuru, which creates the sound of creation. Lord Shiva is coming in his favorite, the vehicle that we call it, which is the bull, and all these are happening in the place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam. And this place is filled with beautiful clouds, the clouds that are going to bring in rainfall which is going to bring in surplus water, and this water in turn is going to make the entire place more resourceful. That is what verse number 7 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the 8th verse, the verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. தன்னகமழலை சீலம்போடு சாதங்கை தமருகம் திருவடி திருநீரு இந்நகை மழலை கங்கை கொங்கிதழி இளம்பொறை குழை வளர் இளமான் கிண்ணரம் முழவம் மழலையாள் வீணை கழுவு கம்பலை கீழ்கோட்டூர் மன்னவன் மணியம்பலத்துள் நின்றாடும் மைந்தன் என் மனத்துள் வைத்தனனே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is having again a lot of meaning when it comes to researching it in the form of Siddhantam. Today's verse is encapsulating quite a lot of Siddhantam concepts. So what are those? When you look at Lord Shiva, he is nothing but, when we talk about Siddhantam, we know he is in the form of Nadam. Nadam means sound. When we talk about sound, that's the most important one for this world, and that is where the entire Omkaram started, which is basically the reason for this creation. So whatever we are able to see around us in the form of sound is all being placed in my heart by Lord Shiva. That is what verse number 8 is all about. If you look at it, what are the sources of light? And according to a older text called as Panjamarabu, they talk about the source of sound from 5 different varieties. One is based on metallic sound. So when we hit one metal against the other, we do get a little bit of a sound. That is what we are able to see in the form of anklets. When a lady wears an anklet, the sound is created based on metallic. And the next form of sound can be created with the help of air, which is what we are able to see as part of flute. And we also hear sound which is basically something like violin or guitar, which is based on strings. Those days we called it as yal. Yal was one of the very traditional instruments based on Indian tradition. That was created, the sound was created based on strings. Alternatively, we can also have something like drums. Drums, we all know, sound is generated based on skin. All these 4 are different varieties. Apart from this, we can also generate sound based on someone singing. So totally there are 5 sources of sound. This is defined as per Panjamarabu, which is a very well-known text when it comes to musical notes. So Lord Shiva is placing all these varieties of sound in my heart. That is what on a very deeper level we are able to see. Not only that, whenever we are able to hear these sound, it means Lord Shiva is already there in our heart. The moment he comes into our heart, the first thing he is going to give us is Omkaram, which is basically the 5-letter syllable which is called as Sivaya Nama or Nama Sivaya. The 5-letter syllable is represented in the form of a flower called as Kondre. Obviously, when the sound is there resonating within us, and at the same time we are given the 5-letter syllable, obviously there is going to be holy ashes associated with that. So I am also given the holy ashes, which means verse number 8 is all about the divine act of Diksha. So when Diksha is given to us, obviously the only person who is going to stay put in our heart is Lord Shiva. That is what verse number 8 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam, and the 9th verse. The verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. யாது நீ நினைவது எவரையமுடையது எவர்களும் யாவையும் தானாய் பாதுகை மழலை சீலம்போடு புகுந்தென் பனிமலர் கண்ணுள் நின்றகலான் கேதகை நிழலை குறுகென மருவி கெண்டைகள் வெறுவு கீழ்கோட்டூர் மாதவன் மணியம்பலத்துள் நின்றாடும் மைந்தன் என் மனம் புகுந்தானே. Thiruchitrambalam. Today's verse is a lovely practical verse that we all should be memorizing. If you look at it, there's a lot of contradiction between the practical world and the spiritual world. What are the contradictions is what, at least one of the contradiction is what we are going to talk about here. Let's look at the way when we fall for a person or an object, as in fall in love with an object or fall in love with a person. The first thing we do is we have to look at the person or the thing. Once we look at the object, we like the way how it looks or probably the ability, or probably the skills that are there, whatever. Something attracts us. Because of that, it stay puts in our heart, which means love comes in only through eyes. How about in spiritual world is the other way. Imagine we would have been staying in the same locality for so many years, and there would have been a Shiva temple over there, but we would have never bothered to even go nearby. Even for rain, we wouldn't have gone there and stayed there for shelter. But the moment Lord Shiva decides to get into our heart, that is when our eyes will start looking up for his temples. Then only we will realize, hey, there's such a beautiful temple near my house. How did I miss it all along? And then we will start going over there. So, in our materialistic life, if something needs to get into our heart, it has to go through our eyes. But in spiritual world, first it gets, as in God gets into our heart, only after that he gets on or stay puts in our eyes. This is something which we will be able to resonate in our world as of today. Imagine there are two people who are getting into a fight or a war. One king who succeeds will conquer the king who has failed. The defeated king will surrender himself. In this case, surrender depicts something that is a failure. Is that the same in spiritual world? No. Imagine we are going to a temple. We bow down and say, God, I'm surrendering myself to you. What happens over there? They sprinkle water, they give you flowers, and they give you a crown. So imagine when we surrender in the materialistic world, we lose. When we surrender in spiritual world, we gain. We get a crown. Can you imagine this kind of a contradiction? The world and the spiritual world has a lot of contradictions. So all we have to do is understand this contradiction, fall in love with the spiritual world, and totally surrender ourselves. Let Lord Shiva sit in our heart so that our eyes will be filled with Lord Shiva. Okay. Who is this Lord Shiva? He is part and parcel of everything around us. You see a living being, you see a non-living being, you do see Lord Shiva in everything. He is there all the way from stones to the trees to the animals to the fellow human beings that we are able to see around us. He is in the form of sun and moon and air and whatever we are able to feel, which means he is there around us. He is within us and he is around us. Once we start understanding this reality, this truth, that is where the entire world is going to open up for us. That is what verse number 9 is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the 10th verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. Andi poluruvum andiyil pirai seralagiya sadayum vanneerum சிந்தையால் நீனையில் சிந்தையும் காணேன் செய்வதென் தெளிவு நல்லாலங்கள் கெந்தியாவுகளும் கெண்டை புண்டரிகம் குழிக்கும் தன் பனை கீழ்கோட்டூர் வந்த நாள் மணியம்பாலத்துள் நின்றாடும் மைந்தனி அறியும் என் மனனே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is a lovely verse. In fact, this must be recited on a daily basis as our request during our puja. What is this verse all about? Lord Shiva, who's so young and vibrant and so beautiful and so handsome, he is the one who's dancing in the place called as Keezhkottoor Maniyambalam. The beautiful dance is taking away my mind. I'm able to see him who is in the beautiful color, orangish color, and the example that they are giving is, if you imagine the evening sunset time, if you are watching the sky, we will be able to see a beautiful orangish shade, right? That is the color. Lord Shiva's color is orangish red, and he is holding on to the crescent onto his hair, so it actually adds on to the beauty. Apart from that, he is having his holy ashes, which is pure white. Can you imagine the beauty of this particular scenario? The moment I see him, I've fallen in love with him, and now I want to keep him in my heart, but unfortunately there is no space in my heart. We also have the same issue. If you remember, we also have the same issue. Our heart is filled with unnecessary things that we don't have space for Lord Shiva. But the saint here, he says, his heart is already filled with Lord Shiva's thoughts, that it is so full, there is no other space that he could even fill up with Lord Shiva's this beautiful appearance. Now, our prayers should be, when are we going to get this kind of a heart full of Lord Shiva's thoughts, nothing other than Lord Shiva. Even when we are doing our puja, we are not able to 100% concentrate on this kind of an approach, right? 1% if we are able to focus on the puja, and then other like 99% we are already filled with what's going to be today's meetings and what are the work that we have to do and what not. We are just thinking about all our daily chores rather than filling our thoughts with Lord Shiva's thoughts. So today our prayer should be, Lord Shiva, I want you to be filled up in my heart, that I shouldn't have space for anything else, literally anything else. That even if I want to fill up a new form of you, I shouldn't be having a space. If we are able to achieve this, this is the highest form of yoga and highest form of jnana that is being taught in this 10th verse. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam, and the 11th verse, the finale verse. The verse goes this way, Thiruchitrambalam. கீர்த்தி நின்றாடும் அறிவயர் தேருவில் கெழுவு கம்பலை கீழ்கோட்டூர் மத்தனை மணியம்பலத்துள் நின்றாடும் மைந்தனை ஆரணம் பீதற்றும் பித்தனின் மொழிந்த மணி நெடு மாலை பெரியவர் ககலிரு வீசும்பில் முத்தியாம் என்றே உலகறித்துவரில் முகமலர்ந்தெதிர்கொள்ளும் தீருவே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse comes in as something what we call it as Thirukadaikappu, which means the benefit of someone reading the entire Thirupadigam, which means that there were 10 verses earlier. Along with this, there are totally 11 verses. If someone is ready to commit themselves and read this Padigam, the entire Padigam is in the 11 verses on a daily basis, what is the benefit someone is going to get? On a superficial side, if we look at it, when someone is reading this Padigam, they are going to get money. That's what literal meaning is all about. But if you go into a little bit more deeper and a subtle state, the only monetary value, of course the money that we are talking about now is not the currency that we are talking about, because that's all man-made. The real precious value is Lord Shiva. This has been resonated, this has been given to us by Kazhippallayar. In one of his Padigam, he used to say, Selvan Kazhalethum Selvam Selvame, which means whenever we want more of this, we can't call it as money, but the most important source of wealth, when we want wealth, the only wealth that we can think about is to praise Lord Shiva's lotus feet. That is the real wealth. So, what is the wealth that we are going to accumulate when we are singing this? Obviously, money. That is something that we need for this life, so that will come to us. Not only that, we will also be bestowed with the real wealth, which is realization. We will achieve Lord Shiva's lotus feet after our death. That is what verse number 11 is all about. This is the finale verse. I'll come back again with the next Padigam, which is the 11th Padigam very soon. Until then, Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam.